Hey there, it's Ben with the Summit Lighthouse. I'm a Chila in the Order of St. Joseph, and I also run Ascended Master Paul the Venetian on Facebook. And I'm here to continue research. I'm compiling information about the fallen angels and the Nephilim and the Watchers and other biblical references to non-human life on the planet, essentially, and I'm not making any sort of qualitative judgment with respect to that. One thing to remember when you're studying the fallen angels is that the fallen angels are referred to, depending upon the translation in the Bible, as sons of God. Sons of God meaning angels, and not necessarily good forces, not necessarily positive angels. And in some instances, the Bible refers to the fallen angels, the demonic angels, as the sons of God. So it's important to remember that we're the sons of God, the sons and daughters of God, as Mother teaches, but that fallen angels are referred to as the sons of God in the Bible. So, give you a little bit of information here, if I can find my place. They're mentioned in Genesis 6:4, if that's helpful for anybody following along with this. There's all sorts of information, and really the best way to go about it, I would imagine, is to read the two major works written by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. I think that her daughter co-wrote one of the books with her, and one of the books was just written by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. And Origins of Evil is the name of one of the books. What does she mean exactly? I'll give you a broad overview, and then later down the line we'll get into the details so that we can really make a valid assessment with respect to what the language in the biblical text is saying and how to manage exegesis. Another thing to remember for people who are interested in this, and a lot of people have been interested in this because of the idea or the possibility that these fallen angels somehow have an attachment to alien greys, negative aliens coming from outer space. And then there's also a school of thought out there. And to the extent that Church Universal and Triumphant and the Summit Lighthouse is interested, well, it's kind of an emerging interest, and it's an important topic, I feel, because I think that we should at least have the notion that extraterrestrial life might be interacting with the planet to some extent, and really angelology is a form of, or studying angels. Angels are a form of extraterrestrial life to an extent. They're spirit matter. But they're not the evil Nephilim greys to which many people refer. But Genesis 6:4 says, "The sons of God went into the daughters of men who bore children to them." Okay, so the fallen angels, when Archangel Michael kicked them out of heaven, the fallen angels had offspring with the daughters of men, quote unquote daughters of men, which means that there was a hybrid race developed, and they were referred to as the Watchers. So, and it gets a little bit confusing because some of at least one of the books refers to a race of giants, and I think it depends upon how you organize the biblical timeline and how you look at chronology. And I'm not sure if some people might interpret the Watchers to be something different, but certainly it does say definitively in Genesis, and there are also references in the book of Hebrews to fallen angels. The book of Hebrews says sons of Elohim went into the daughters of men. So again, these angelic forces, sons of God, sons of Elohim, that were not human beings coming down, and in some of the translations it said lusted after them. And then God precipitated the flood. Some people might not be aware of that, but this intermarrying of evil extraterrestrials, or evil angels, I should say, with human women, caused, one thing to lead to another, and ultimately resulted in God's disgust towards mankind and rejection of us as a creation. When God made the flood, and you'll read the words, and I hadn't looked at it in a while, and it was interesting to go back into the Bible and take a look and see, well, God at one point decided to cancel creation. And we are taught that also in Ascended Master Theology. There was a point at which God wanted to cancel creation in Sanat Kumara, the hierarch of Venus, the planetary logos for Venus, came from Venus, along with Saint Germain, in Lipo, and some other Ascended Master figures, to work with the threefold flame on the planet and to make sure that everything was going to end up being okay, because hierarchy decided to cancel. So that's part of Ascended Master Theology. That's what bad things got unearthed. And you figured, well, we've failed on multiple occasions on the planet, and with any luck in the successive rounds, and people who are involved in New Age theology today look for, when they talk about the quote-unquote New Age, they're talking about the golden age of Saint Germain. Saint Germain is here now, so we are going to have an improved planet. But we needed Sanat Kumar to come and bail us out on one occasion. And then he ended up getting to go back to Venus, which is what he wanted. So and there's information on that if you look up the different teachers on the internet. I know Lipo talks a little bit about it, and then there are a couple of it's mentioned by Sanat Kumara must be mentioned by Mother on a million different occasions. I just can't think of any of them off the top of my head. But that's the answer to that. And fallen angels, and I refer to this as well. Fallen angels are the tares or the chaff when Jesus talks about the winnowing. Jesus talks about the fallen angels. It's important to understand in Ascended Master Theology that we don't necessarily have the same view as other people do. You're not going to be damned. If you're a good person and you know that you walk in the light, you're a child of God. And you don't have to earn God's love or salvation. But you do have to balance karma. Not to please God, but because to get to the next round, to get to a better embodiment, to break the cycles of samsara, we merge the teachings of East and West. So the notion of samsara, that we're continuously rebodied, and that it can be a sorrowful experience, and it is a sorrowful experience to an extent until you've stopped suffering, which is when you reach your final incarnation. And then you're released from the cycle of repetitions. So people do have to have resources, and they have to have the knowledge and the practical tools and the spiritual tools and the alchemical tools in order to gain their freedom, essentially, and to make their ascension. So, it's important that we support people on that quest. And of course, everybody is free to follow their own path towards God. But fallen angel theology is confusing to some people, because some people want to believe, oh, really, they're the alien greys, or really they're, some form of Satan, or they're not here anymore. I've heard that one as well, that they're not here. They're reptilians who aren't here anymore. Well, that's not really entirely true. They are still among us. We have to re-embody, and we have to really make an exodus so that we don't have them in our ranks anymore. So in Ascended Master Theology, Church Universal and Triumphant, the Summit Lighthouse, and I believe it's the teaching of the Bridge to Freedom and the Saint Germain Foundation and other people who follow the Book of Enoch, there are bad forces in the world. There are satanic forces in the world because some people among us are evil. They're just bad people. And we all know, or have known in the past, some of those people. And it's not the people who are weak or make mistakes or who are searching or not very evolved or young or undereducated or that sort of thing. These are bad people. And they're bad people for a variety of reasons, but they made choices that ensure that they stay bad, and they're just lost. And we don't owe an obligation to such beings, because they're here to destroy us. They're here to persecute the light bearers in the earth. and we have to protect ourselves and each other from persecution. That's the reality of the situation. But I did want to speak a little bit about it, because there have been a lot of questions about angelology, evil aliens, are there evil grays, all that sort of thing. Do we teach it? And I think that the teaching is evolving. I think that my impression, what the masters tell me, is that it's not really the case that every single last alien gray in the universe is an evil entity. But one other person whose work I've looked at, and who's a good theologian, there are components to his theology that are compelling. I don't think he considers himself a theologian. I think he considers himself probably, I'm not sure, conspiracy theorist, or someone who's just interested in studying extraterrestrial creationism, possibly. Well, his opinion is that the alien grays are really the fallen angels disguising themselves as aliens, but that they're not aliens. They're not really alien grays. They're not really from outer space. So part of and there's also, well, are they really? There's also the speculation, or the hypothesis, I suppose, that extraterrestrials are interdimensional. They're human beings, sort of in an advanced round, returning. They're not from outer space. They're from inner space, or within sort of parallel dimensions of Earth, or parallel levels of Earth. And I suppose that's possible. I suppose I'm not really sure what the formal teaching is, or what Mother or Mark Prophet have said about that in particular. I have just read that Nephilim in the form, or alien grays, are to be, we're to pray them away. But I don't think that we have all the information. I don't think that when they wrote that, or the people who wrote that, maybe were just speaking about certain occasions. And I think that it's possible that there's extraterrestrial life, or alien life, depending upon your definition, that is more, that they're more, I'm not sure, reptilian, but not satanic reptiles, I guess. But it's interesting to look at Genesis, and it's interesting to read Corinthians and Enoch, because there's a lot of information in the early Bible that indicates that the planet was made by multiple forces. We think of, or as Christians, Judeo-Christians, and people adherent to the religions that are extended from Abraham, including Islam, believe basically, well, God or Allah created the planet. But if you look at the Bible, and you read the Bible, there are some Gnostic elements to Genesis that are really interesting to explore, because some of the scholars have gone through and looked at the early Hebrew, looked at the letters associated with the word Yahweh, for instance, and made the determination that, Yahweh, and I'll look this up for you, and I'll bring it into my next teaching. Yahweh was plural, and neither masculine nor feminine. So Yahweh was some sort of to an extent, a transhumanist, or a transhuman embodiment, or I shouldn't say transhuman, because I don't think that Yahweh was human, but that Yahweh was more than one person. I think that it has applications to people who are interested in transhumanism, is how I should put it. But I can certainly retrieve additional information for people. When you look on my playlist, Ben Turner 214, and you go into the playlist, the Eli teaching, you can find the teaching on Rael. The Raelians are the religion that believe in, that aliens created the planet. I don't believe that necessarily. I think that it oversimplifies ascended master theology to say that these things are just reptilian aliens from outer space somehow. Possibly the planet was created by angelic forces, and I believe that that's the case. And we can go back to and look at what Mother has taught and what the traditional theosophic teachings are. And take a look at Rudolf Steiner and some of the other people who are masters or who are becoming ascended masters, and explore it additionally. But Genesis it appears that the planet might have been made by more than one. According to the Bible, Yahweh was probably plural. At least that's what some of the Hebrew scholars said, or could have been plural. And of course, different Christian religions, some religions, have more of a Jehovah or more of a local God who might be involved. And then there might be a God beyond us and so forth. And generally speaking, I think, and a lot of atheists sort of don't agree that the planet was created by God, so it shuts down the whole conversation. But the planet wasn't necessarily created by Alpha and Omega. It wasn't necessarily created by the quote-unquote God of gods. And it's fine for us to speculate, more with more profundity about the origins of Earth in this particular dimension. So I just wanted to give that brief bit of information, because we've been looking at it for several days, and there are, if you dig around, people have posted some really interesting comments, some interesting commentary about what other people are saying. And again, as with always, I think that there's a true teaching. Sometimes I think we have to do a little bit of digging, and we have to find, we have to do our homework so that we get to the truth. But I think that we're in the process of doing that. All right, so this is just short comments, 16 minutes, 17-minute commentary about fallen angels and extraterrestrial life and the various books. I might even have an extra quote. I'm not sure. I tucked I guess I don't see it around here, but, well, there's something here. I tucked a piece of paper aside. It might have been from the Book of Enoch, but remember, for people who are new and for people who are following me, say, on Ascended Master Paula Venetian, that Enoch, the Book of Enoch, was suppressed. I'll add this information because it's interesting. The Book of Enoch was suppressed from the canonical Bible back in, when the Council of Nicaea was going through and saying this book, that book, not that book, keeping out the Gnostic texts, keeping out the texts that said where they didn't like certain of the writings by Jesus and so forth, making it their agenda. In other words, protecting their own interests at the expense of the Gnostic truth, which, was not the right thing to do. But the Book of Enoch, Enoch walked with, he walked on the earth, and then he was no more. Meaning he was taken up by God, as Isaiah was taken up by God, as Jesus was taken up by God. And the Book of Enoch is the one book in the Bible, and again, it's not even in the canonical Bible, unfortunately, where it says that people can become angels. When we look at cartoons and so forth, if you look at Looney Tunes cartoons, and you see the angelic winged soul coming up out of the body, that's a representation. Well, we just take it for granted that after people die, they fly up to heaven. But the Christian teaching doesn't support that. And the Christian teaching and the Catholic Church and so forth, they don't believe that departed people become angels. Departed people's souls are eventually judged. When Christ returns to the planet, there's Judgment Day. It's all according to John's Apocalypse. That's Christian theology. The Book of Enoch was suppressed in its entirety, and in Enoch, certain individuals who do well in this part of the lesson and the teaching are able to make their ascension as angels. They become angels. So it's an interesting, very interesting book, and we'll be discussing it some more, and I'll also be taking another look at the specific references to the fallen angels, Nephilim. They're also referred to as giants. That's one of the interpretations. If you read the Old Testament, they'll refer to races of giants and so forth. And there are different theories. There are different theologians have different things to say about who these sons of God were, who the sons of daughters were. some have said that the sons of God were actually part of the, I think it's part of the bad bloodline of Cain. Cain, who killed his brother Abel, or something to that effect. But there's all sorts of interesting different theories. So I will definitely keep you folks posted. But thank you for posting, for looking at the teaching and how I'm presenting the information, and I've enjoyed responding to all of you. Please see me on Order of St. Joseph, and also see me on Ascended Master Paul the Venetian, both on Facebook. And if you want to cut straight to the teaching as I deliver it, it's Ben Turner 214, and the playlist is ELI, New Thought Spirituality. That's my work to date, basically my video recorded work to date. Mother is, I posted tons of Mother on both Order of St. Joseph and Ascended Master Paul the Venetian. She's my guru. I recommend her. I mean, I can't recommend her, enough. She is the center of my entire theology, and I encourage everybody to take a look at her teaching. You can also look at, if you want to see them all, outside of the context of how I posted them on the page, just go straight to Summit Lighthouse, all one word, on YouTube, and they have whatever is out there for video recordings of Mother. Okay? Peace, everybody. Please take good care of yourselves if you're in the Northeast and you're being exposed to a lot of really bad weather, or wherever people might be encountering problems with weather and other problems. And I am around if anybody needs me. And namaste. Okay, thank you. Bye.